still connected with the Hamilton crowd, the Golden crowd at Hamilton?
Yeah,
Kennedy and the boys.
Still
Oh, okay. I think I told you that Hamilton was my first choice out of high school. I didn't get in.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Welcome to the Drew University Athletics Annual Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony. Yes, let's give it a round of applause. My name is Krista Racine-Ryan. I'm the Director of Athletics here at Drew. Thank you for joining us here this evening to celebrate the accomplishments of our Ranger alumni and staff. Before we begin this evening, I'd like to take a moment to briefly highlight a few of our Ranger accomplishments over the last year. Women's swimming and diving, women's tennis, and men's and women's golf all earned landmark championships during the 2021-22 season. Men's soccer and men's basketball advanced to the landmark championship, and men's swimming and diving finished second overall in the conference finals. This past academic year was the most successful year in Ranger athletics history. We can clap for that too. The university recently announced the addition of men's and women's indoor and outdoor track and field, which will start competition in 2023 and will bring our sports sponsorship to 26 sports. We are proud of our past accomplishments and excited about future successes and opportunities. At this time, I would like to introduce one of the Rangers' biggest fans. We are fortunate to have a president who supports our teams, values the intangibles associated with participation in college athletics, and encourages us to continue our mission of providing the best possible sport experience for our student athletes. Please welcome President Tom Schwarz.
Thank you. I told Krista I had a 50-minute speech, which is, of course, the length of the classes, but I cut it down by 5 minutes. Thank you for coming, and it's my honor to be here. I'm a believer in college sports for many, many reasons. I think it's a great organizer. I think people learn how to organize themselves, their time. They understand teamwork, and they understand how to lose and how to move on, and that obviously is important in life. And everything that sports does, at least at a Division III level, I think really adds to the future of the alumni and those who are playing. So I support this. It was my pleasure to push that we add the track and field, and we'll continue to look at other opportunities in the sports area. And as we all know, those of you who have played a sport tend to be loyal to the institution, tend to understand the importance of support for the institution, and all of the studies of alumni show that those who played a sport in college tend to be the most loyal alumni. So I thank you for being loyal, for being here, for honoring our honorees this evening. And again, I look forward to watching all of our teams. I wish I could get out to more. I try to see a few of each during the course of each semester, and cheer them on and commiserate when necessary. But it's a great honor to be here, so thank you, Krista.
At this time, I'd like to introduce our Master of Ceremonies, Kevin Ralph, who's a class of 1994 and Hall of Fame inductee, and member of the Hall of Fame class of 2011, and chair of the Hall of Fame committee, Kevin Ralph.
Thank you, Krista. Thank you, Dr. Schwarz. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone, and welcome home. It's good to be back here on campus, and it's great to see so many people here for this year's Hall of Fame ceremony. It's also nice to welcome everyone who's viewing tonight's event over the live video stream. So we appreciate that as well. As a Drew alumnus, former coach, and chair of the Hall of Fame committee, as Krista mentioned, it's my pleasure to welcome you as we celebrate the careers of 5 outstanding student athletes and a remarkable administrator, all of whom left indelible marks on the university. This is a very special group of people that we have here tonight. Before I go any further, I'd like to introduce or ask the Hall of Fame committee members who are in the audience tonight to please stand. This is a group of volunteers that support the mission of the Hall of Fame and greatly appreciate their dedication and support of Drew. I'd also like to acknowledge the current coaches who are here and athletic staff. I know some of them are in the midst of practicing as we speak, but obviously the coaching staff and all the support staff in the department are key to the success of our student athletes. And finally, I'd like to welcome all the current Hall of Fame members who are here, and I know I've seen a few of you, so if you could please stand and be recognized as well. Rather than naming you all, I don't want to miss anyone, but I know there are some Shaws there, or at least one that I saw, and if you could just all please stand and be recognized. I can tell you from personal experience that our time at Drew as student athletes taught us the value of hard work, teamwork, and individual responsibility, all of which was largely due to our coaches and our teammates. We also had the opportunity to create personal bonds, which for many of us last to this day. Drew is truly a special place, and I'm a proud son of my alma mater, and I'm humbled every year to come back here and be a part of this event. And now, on to the reason why we're all here, the induction of these special individuals who are on stage with me. I'm going to share just a summary of their accomplishments here, records, statistics, and awards, but there's also more detail in your programs as well, so please take a moment to read those as well. Our first inductee is Heatherlyn Mennis Ames from the class of 2000. Heatherlyn made her mark as a tremendous two-sport athlete in the Forest, competing in field hockey during the fall and women's lacrosse in the spring. She was a 4-year starter on defense in both sports and made her greatest impact on the lacrosse field. Heatherlyn played a major role in one of the top eras in Drew women's lacrosse history, helping the Rangers capture 4 consecutive Middle Atlantic Conference titles while going undefeated in MAC play for an entire 4-year career. The team captured an additional postseason title in 1999 when the team defeated Ithaca for the ECAC championship. Individually, she was a 3-time first-team All-MAC selection. Her greatest recognition came following her senior campaign when she was recognized with both first-team All-Region and third-team All-America honors. In field hockey, Heatherlyn also guided the Rangers to a successful 4-year run while starting in 76 games throughout her career. In 1998, she was part of a team that went undefeated in MAC regular season play and qualified both for the MAC and ECAC playoffs. She was a 3-time All-MAC selection in field hockey and gained first-team honors her senior year. Here's a quote from Karen Townsend Maria, class of 2000, who we saw here just stand a moment ago. Former lacrosse teammate of Heather's. My dad always said big plays start at the defensive end. This was never more true than when I played a lacrosse game with Heatherlyn. She was the spark that ignited many goals. I trusted her as a teammate on the field and even more so as a friend off the field. She is also definitely in my Hall of Fame when it comes to people making me laugh and having a good time. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce Heatherlyn Mennis Ames to you.
Thank you. Thank you to the athletic committee. Thank you to the friends who nominated me. This is a tremendous honor. I loved my 4 years at Drew, and athletics was such a huge part of my college experience. In fact, I'm not sure I would have lasted 4 weeks if it hadn't been for field hockey. Those of you who knew me back then will remember how desperately homesick I was when I first got to college. I remember a few weeks in having a conversation where my father gently told me it was okay if I decided to leave college and come home, but to please make the decision before it was too late to get a partial refund. But fortunately, the instant community that came with being a member of a team and the opportunity to play with such a talented group was enough to get me over the hump. Early on, someone told me that the people you befriend those first few weeks at college never end up being your long-term friends. But all these years later, my closest friends from Drew are the same ones I met at field hockey preseason in 1996. My dear friend Julia, who was my running partner the very first day of practice freshman year, eventually became my roommate, my co-captain, and a bridesmaid at my wedding. Monica Bradley, who's not here tonight, class of '99, another dear friend to this day, and one of the most accomplished athletes in Drew history, made me feel welcome and valued when I was a shy, homesick freshman, and eventually convinced me to go out for lacrosse in the spring. And while I arrived at college with years of field hockey experience, I was relatively new to lacrosse. And at first, I wasn't particularly good at it. I later learned that during my freshman year, there was at least one player that the goalie had been instructed never to clear the ball out to when it was a close game, no matter how wide open that person was. I can say with complete confidence that person was me. But luckily for me, and for our poor goalie, who probably felt awkward having to pretend she couldn't see that I was wide open, over the next 3 years I got better. And I got better because I had incredible coaches. Suzanne and Jamie knew lacrosse X's and O's inside and out, but what they really excelled at was building a team and knowing how to develop even the most inexperienced players. I also improved because the best players on our team made everyone else around them better. For example, Karen Townsend, another one of the most accomplished players in Drew history, could have easily just focused on building her own staggering statistics. But instead, she looked to involve her teammates in every play, and the team was better for it. To this day, being a member of that team remains one of the luckiest, most fun, most rewarding experiences of my life. Sports have continued to play an important role in my life in the years since I graduated from Drew. I've had the opportunity to coach at the college, high school, and youth level. My weekends are currently dominated by my two daughters' sporting events. And all these years of interacting with sports from the other side have given me a new perspective on my own experience as an athlete and a new appreciation for just how lucky I was to have had the coaches, teammates, and opportunities I had right here at Drew. So again, thank you to my coaches, to my teammates, to the friends who cheered us on from the stands, and most of all to my parents. My mom, I know, is here in spirit. My dad had every intention of being here, couldn't make it last minute, but they almost never missed a game throughout my career. And to my parents, I'm sorry for all those tearful phone calls the first few weeks of college. Thank you for giving me the option to leave, and thank you for being my biggest fans after I decided to stay. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Heather. Congratulations again. Our next inductee this evening is Billy Hosking. Though we worked behind the scenes as the Rangers' equipment manager, Billy became one of the most recognized and respected individuals in the athletic department throughout his lengthy career in the Forest. He arrived at Drew in the summer of 1982 and embarked on a 38-year career before retiring in October of 2020. He served the Rangers and our 20 varsity sports teams. It was still 20 when he retired, right? Okay. With countless duties, including purchasing and maintaining all athletic equipment. He also held additional roles at some point throughout his career, including game management coordinator and building manager of the Simon Forum. Billy's greatest gift to the university may well be the positive impact he made on the students and student athletes he encountered throughout his career, myself included. In 2001, a group of former student athletes established the William G. Hosking Scholarship, which provides need-based aid to a Drew student who is actively involved in extracurricular activities and serves the community. Its recipients are expected to exemplify some of Billy's most impactful characteristics, such as dedication, honor, commitment, and loyalty to the university. It has gone on to become one of the largest endowed scholarships the university currently awards. I could tell countless stories and recite countless quotes tonight from messages I've received, and I'm sure Billy has received numerous letters and emails as well. But Jack Ravetti, class of 1992, I thought summed it up really nicely when he said, "Billy was always someone that made you feel good about things, and he put a smile on your face. He was always quick to offer congratulations or give you a pep talk when needed. He had a great feel for all things Drew Athletic and was always there for all of us." And Billy, I know that your retirement came just as COVID was upon us, so unlike a retiring major league legend, you didn't get to have the final tour and get motorcycles and cars, but hopefully this makes up a little bit for that, and we'll do a lot more celebrating together again in the future. So, ladies and gentlemen, please congratulate Billy, and I'd like to call him up to the podium now. Congratulations, Billy Hosking.
Good evening, everyone. I've attended a lot of Hall of Fame ceremonies at various places at Drew and different colleges during my lifetime, and I sat in the watching those, and I wondered what it would be like to get up here and speak, thinking that I would never be into a Hall of Fame because of the fact I wasn't an athlete in college. But so it's a great honor to be up here. Being inducted this evening. I just want to thank the Hall of Fame committee for selecting me, Kevin and the other members of the committee. It's a great honor to me to be chosen to be in the Hall of Fame, so I really appreciate the honor. Thank you to the committee. I also want to congratulate my fellow inductees tonight. I was fortunate to see Heatherlyn play for 4 years, and Dan and Dave. I was very close with when they were playing here, and Robin also. I guess she's not going to be here tonight, but I had a story to tell. My first year at Drew. Part of my compensation package was they were going to provide housing for me. So I was living with the assistant basketball coach for women. He was my roommate over here. And he would come home from practice every evening, and we would talk about this one women's basketball player. And he would rave about what a great person she was and great ball handler. And that was Robin Savar, who's being inducted this evening as well. So I just wanted to bring that little story into play. Along with that, the story I said about Drew providing me with housing goes back to my first day ever at Drew. I came down and was just around August 15th in 1982, just before preseason soccer started, and I went in and actually checked in with Coach Slaza, the AD at the time, who actually he couldn't make it tonight, but he sent his regrets. He's not feeling too well. He's down in Reisterstown, Maryland, but he congratulated me, and he was the athletic director at the time, and one of the Hall of Fame committee members was in the office at that time, Ken Cole, who was the sports information director at Drew at that time. And I met him, and then unfortunately the room setup they had provided for me wasn't ready. So I was told to go over here to Holloway Hall, which is right around the corner from here. And I was getting out of my car with my stuff, and I walked in, there's a courtyard there, and there was about 8, they looked like students, and they had a keg of beer. It was a beautiful afternoon. It was like around 2:30 in the afternoon. And there was one Drew, I found out later he was a Drew graduate. His name was John Spinarkle. And I don't know if Coach Masco's here, but Coach Masco knows of him. He's quite a character. he actually graduated, and he was in there with a group of students, and they actually wrote a book about him. He was such a character at Drew, but great fella. And he said, well, boy, are you just checking in as a freshman student here? And I said, no. I explained my situation. I was coming to work and everything. He says, come on, have a beer. So I set my couple bags that I had down, and about 4 hours later, I went up and put my stuff away. But I tell that story as that was the first beginning of a long relationship, great relationship with the students and student athletes at Drew. So that was my beginning. I just wanted to acknowledge a couple individuals that were very instrumental in my success in my career. The first individual is a person that I worked with almost from the day I started at Drew, a little bit later, but and he's just a great friend of mine, and he's like family to me. Tom Leonos, he's a legend at Drew. Just wanted to recognize him. And he's here with his wife, Karen. He came up from Florida, so I spent a lot of time over the years going in his office, talking about various things, and he's just a great person, a great friend of mine. And the second person I wanted to acknowledge was Vince Masco. I believe he's here. He was coming with his wife, Debbie. I hold him in very high regard. He's just a great friend of mine. He's like family. And just wanted to acknowledge him. Those two guys are really instrumental in my career at Drew. And then also I wanted to thank all the athletic directors I worked for. Dick Slaza, who I mentioned before, Vernon Mummert, who had called me earlier this evening, actually, and said he wasn't able to make it. He's in the Mayo Clinic undergoing some tests. And then Connie Zotos, unfortunately couldn't make it. She congratulated me. And she had a previous commitment with her family to go on a trip. And Jason Fine and Krista. So I want to thank all those athletic directors for being great bosses and just great people. Over the years, I was accorded many honors at Drew, and I say that being a humble person. I've been described as a humble person, and I bring that up because I think the first honor I received at Drew was, I think, 1988. A student came over to my office one afternoon, and I didn't even know her, and she said, well, we're going to honor you for this award. It was called the Green D, I think they called it, Achievement Award. It was given by the Drew Student Association, and she told me, we're giving that to you for the great service you've accorded to the students. A number of students have come to us, and they chose you as one of them. There was a number of individuals that were chosen in different categories from out the university. So that was the first honor I was accorded, and but I didn't really think I was did anything special, in my job, or it was just my daily way of life, or I did my job. And as things went on, the second thing kind of made me think about how I was doing my job here and my connections with the students, relationships with the student athletes, was somebody came up to me one late afternoon, and they said that they were having a meeting over here in Mead Hall. President Kane was running. It was with the Drew employee organization, and he was talking about different employees and the great job they did, and this person had told me that Governor Kane was talking about me, and when he said, I said, "Oh, am I in trouble?" and no, it was Governor Kane had said, pointed me out as a great employee and commitment and that type of thing. And so then later on, a few years later, they established this scholarship, and I'm very proud of that. And it's gone on to, as Kevin had alluded to, help a great number of students over the years. And one student comes to mind. He was an athlete at Drew. I won't give his name, but it came to the point one summer he wasn't able to. He wasn't going to be able to come back to school, and the scholarship we had it for him the previous year, and he was going to be accorded that the following year as well because he was such an outstanding person. But it didn't. There was a snafu in the paperwork or something, and I got together with the committee, the people that were kind of on the committee that, advising the university with the scholarship, and we were able to get him the scholarship so it was ready so he could come back to school in the fall. And I want to mention the individuals that were instrumental in starting that scholarship. Was Matt Cooper and Fred Dombo and Dennis O'Connor were the three alumni that first started that scholarship back in I think it was 2003, I believe. So I got these honors, and those are all great to me, and it's a great honor to get this Hall of Fame award. But to be honest, I don't know if I should say that. I just heard somebody say on TV that it's not good to say, to be honest. You should be honest all the time. So that's just a phrase. That's just a phrase I use. But I've been blessed in my 38 years at Drew. I really was blessed to make the connections and to make the relationships with the students and student athletes. They enriched my life a great deal, just listening to them and getting the feedback from them, being able to connect with them, hear about their families, hear about their day-to-day problems, hear about the things going on in their life, being invited to their weddings later on. It's just a blessing to me. It was a great feeling to get honored over the years with the various honors that I was given. But I truly mean it. I was blessed to be associated with the students, and I thank them. I thank the alumni now, you all alumni here, that are former athletes that I was connected with. I really do. And being selected for this Hall of Fame honor is great, and I really appreciate it and the job I did. But it was just being me, and I think that I owe a big debt of gratitude to the student athletes and now alumni for enriching my life. So that's my thanks to all the alumni. So I'll sum it up by just saying that the honors I achieved over the years meant a lot to me. This means the world to me. But my connection with the students and now with the alumni, they're like family with me. So that means so much to me. So I just wanted to say that. So thank you.
Congratulations, Billy. All right, our next inductee is Chris Kersey from the class of 1971. Chris made a tremendous impact on both the men's basketball and men's tennis programs from the moment he arrived at Drew. Over the course of his career, he captained both teams, led the basketball team in scoring, and was a force at the top of the lineup in tennis. In basketball, he was a four-year letterman who played in every game throughout his career. He was a two-time team captain and a team MVP his junior year when he led the team in scoring. He closed out his hoops career in style, nailing a buzzer beater in a two-point victory over Brooklyn Poly. He tied a school record when he connected for 16 field goals versus Lycoming, and he finished as the fourth leading scorer in team history at the time of his graduation. In tennis, Chris was also a four-year letter winner who played in every match at both singles and doubles in his career. In singles, he competed primarily at the number one position and posted a career record of 42 wins against just 7 losses. He went undefeated in singles during his junior year when the Rangers won the MAC North title. And the team also won the MAC North title during his senior campaign, and the Rangers twice went undefeated in conference play during his career. The team MVP following his freshman and senior years, he helped Drew finish with a four-year mark of 40-9. Rory Corrigan, from the class of 1972, and a dear friend of Chris, has shared the following. And don't worry, it's appropriate. I think. Rory said, I've known Chris since 1968, when he was a class ahead of me at Drew. We competed for 3 years together on the basketball and tennis teams. Chris was, without a doubt, one of the best all-around athletes at Drew and had special talents in hoops and tennis. Chris was a fierce and proud competitor who played with character, integrity, and always displayed fine sportsmanship, even in defeat. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to introduce Chris Kersey.
Thank you all. My opening remarks are really for President Schwartz, and he'll know what I mean when I say that there's a little-known tradition for Hall of Fame induction ceremonies, and that is that that each inductee gets 30 seconds of airtime for every year since graduation. So you might want to settle in out there. It's been 51 years since I graduated. Half a century. That's so many years back that then there was no three-point line. Tennis rackets were wooden, and Drew's colors were green and gold. There are probably only 3 of us here who remember that. To be here tonight, it's a wonderful honor, for sure. But it hasn't all been roses, actually. In fact, it brought up an existential personal crisis that I've been dealing with for years. The stuff of sleepless nights. One of my old friends knew about this emotional problem of mine and couldn't resist. When he saw the basketball and tennis stories of my college years, he looked up and quickly said, "So why aren't you better at golf?" And that is a question for the ages, I must say. Another inductee tradition is to talk about family. And even though no family member who had anything whatsoever to do with my athletic experiences is alive, actually, I will indeed mention family. First, just before he died earlier this year, I told my brother that I would say something about him, if I had an occasion to do so. I told him that I'd say that while I was shooting hoops and batting tennis balls around at Drew, he was serving his country in Vietnam. So, I'm not really sure which Kersey brother should be honored here tonight. Okay, promise made, promise kept, onward. While there are no formative family members here, there are a few people, formative year family members, a few people I want to mention who are in no small part responsible for my standing here, somewhat straight and sort of corpus mentis, although my wife might debate the last one of those two things. And speaking of Helen, I want to thank her for all she does. She's out here tonight with her daughters and my stepdaughters, Allie and Mel. Please say hello to them later tonight. They're actually very charming, much more so than I, which is not a hard bar to leap. there's another person that I need to mention, and that is my wonderful daughter, Elizabeth, who she's now a junior at Oklahoma State, and she's sitting tonight in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Go figure, a Burnsville girl goes to Oklahoma. But she's happy as a bug out in Oklahoma. And actually, Elizabeth sometimes works out in the weight room alongside the Ohio State football team, which is currently ranked 7th in the country. And she was buddies with the 1971 #1 NBA draft pick out of Oklahoma State. So she's exposed to Oklahoma State athletes, and I'm sure that she is thinking right now, what happened, Dad? Did you shrink? It's a different set of circumstances, Elizabeth, a different set of circumstances altogether. So that's the family part of my remarks, and now on to Drew. There are 2 little stories I will tell you tonight, one very much like one we've already heard. And each of these stories, in that Drew is an institution of higher education of great repute, each contains a literary reference. The first reference is to the poet Robert Frost, and the second is to the writer John Updike, although the second one also involves Ted Williams, so don't get too worried. And finally, I'm going to end with a majestic poem written by my teammate after the last game of the 1971 basketball season. It's actually more a limerick than a poem, so again, don't worry. We all know Robert Frost's famous poem, The Road Not Taken. Well, I'd like to go back to the autumn of 1967, and like someone else up here, in her freshman year, I was a monumentally unhappy, homesick freshman. I went home every weekend and was considering dropping out of school, probably to join my brother in Vietnam after I was drafted. But somehow, I mustered the energy at that moment to go out for hoops, and at the end of that process, my name was scotch-taped to the door of my basketball coach's office, and I had made the basketball team. And as Robert Frost said in his wonderful poem, and that made all the difference. I didn't drop out of Drew, and didn't go to Vietnam, and Drew became one of the most important life experiences that I have ever had. Coach Whitey McNowski, whom nobody knows but myself and one other person in the audience, Coach Whitey McNowski will never know what he did for that trepidatious young man. Story number 2. This is John Updike and Ted Williams. The subject is last games. So Ted Williams, again, there aren't that many people who will really know about Ted Williams, but he was the greatest hitter baseball's ever seen. Absolutely, in history, no question about it. Well, he came to bat on a gray September day in 1960. It was his last game and his last at bat ever, and everybody knew it. He homered. The crowd went wild. They stood for minutes, shrieking for Williams to come out of the dugout after rounding the bases. But Williams had had a famously tortured relationship with Boston sports fans, and he would not come out of the dugout. He refused. Updike, writing about Williams' refusal, penned what I think is one of the most wonderful lines in sports literature. He wrote, "Gods do not answer letters." Well, I was certainly no Ted Williams, and my poet teammate was certainly no John Updike, but that does bring me to the end of the 1971 basketball season. Last game, senior year, 15 seconds of last game, score tied, the ball's inbounded to me, and the coach yells for a timeout. I don't hear him. At least I don't remember hearing him. Well, maybe I did hear him, but the last seconds of the last game of your senior year, what would you do? In any case, I dribbled up the sideline away from the coach and fired up a jumper, which went in, game over, career over. The Star Ledger called it a mortar round. I took exception to that description of my silky smooth jump shot, but nevertheless, it did go in, and that was the end of the 71 season. But the story doesn't end there. This is where my poet teammate comes in. It's a little-known fact that the Drew basketball team in 1971 had a poet laureate. Who knew? Now you do. I'm quite sure we're the only team in the nation to have a poet laureate. I'm going to call the poet laureate Fast Eddie, and he just might have been the best athlete ever at Drew. We all thought he could walk into the New York Giant training camp and start at free safety. He was amazing. He was just great. But he had, shall we say, remember this is 1970, 71, he had other interests. And he only played a couple of years. He led the team in scoring my senior year. I was second. But he was a closet poet of sorts. So on the bus ride home after the last game, on our way back from Manhattan after winning, I'm happy to say, Fast Eddie pulls out a fine piece of vellum and an antique fountain pen, and he begins to write. I'm lying about that, actually. What he did was tear the corner out of a classroom notebook and a magic marker. But he did begin to write. And this is what he wrote. However, before I keep you from storming the podium to see what he wrote, I need to tell you one more fact. And that is that in the manner of sophomoric male humor of 20-year-olds, which nicknames the hulky kid Skinny and the tall kid Shorty, I had a nickname. And my nickname was Springs. It was Springs because I couldn't jump. Or at least my teammates thought I couldn't jump. It was a bad rap. I was actually quite the leaper. I have a couple of people there who can attest to that. It was an optical illusion, but I digress. Knowing, though, that my nickname was Springs, I'm now going to read you the poem written on the bus ride home after the last basketball game of 1971. And it's made perfectly wonderful by the fact that there's a bunch of scribbling on the back of this. It was in a notebook I had, and when I pulled it out, there's all kinds of dirt and scribbles on it. And the poem reads, as he leaves the court after 4 great years, the gym floor is flooded by cheerleaders' tears. While out on the court, their echo still rings with a jump and a shout, "Oh, don't leave us, Springs." And that was the end of the 71 basketball season.
Thank you so much, Chris, and congratulations again. Next, I'm pleased to introduce Dan Leidl from the class of 1997. Is that your team that just walked in, by the way? Is that okay? Hey, guys. So Dan was a versatile performer on the lacrosse field who competed at multiple positions throughout his standout career. As a freshman, he was one of the team's primary face-off specialists for a squad that would capture the 1994 MAC title. He became a starting midfielder over the next 2 seasons and gained first-team All-MAC status during his junior campaign. As a senior, he shifted into more of a defensive role, but didn't miss a beat, capturing MAC Co-Player of the Year distinctions. He won an impressive 53% of his face-offs throughout his career and helped the Rangers qualify for the ECAC championships 3 out of his 4 years at Drew. Dan's playing career did not end when he left the Forest. He embarked on a professional career in which he competed for the New Jersey and Anaheim Storm of the National Lacrosse League for 3 years. Then he represented the United States as a member of the National Indoor Lacrosse Team. Finally, from 2002 through 2015, Dan served in multiple capacities for the Irish National Lacrosse Team, first as a player and later as a coach. His postgraduate lacrosse career afforded him the chance to play in multiple world championships across the globe. In the summer of 2021, Dan returned to his alma mater when he was named just the 6th coach, men's lacrosse coach in school history. And in his first year at the helm, he guided the team to its highest victory total in the last 10 years. Dan's head coach at Drew, Coach Tom Lianis, who's with us tonight, as you already heard. Coach Lianis recalls Dan's unrelenting work ethic as the key to his success. He recently shared how Dan often stayed late after practice to work with then assistant coach Andrew DeSico, who had recently been an All-American at Rutgers. The fruits of his labor would pay off, as Coach DeSico would eventually tell Coach Leonis, "I can't beat this guy anymore. He's really working hard." And for any of you who might know Coach DeSico, as I did, as his roommate for several years, that's a high, high compliment. Is he here tonight? A high compliment from Coach DeSico. Coach Leonis added, "Dan was an extremely hard worker. Of all the guys who played at Drew, he elevated his level of play as well as anyone. He was also a very bright student and tutored many of our young players. He had a very giving nature and was always there to help others. I really don't have enough good things to say about him." Ladies and gentlemen, I'm now pleased to introduce and welcome to the Hall of Fame, Dan Leidl.
Thank you. I'm going to come clean here. I'm probably typically better off the cuff, and my team walking in kind of surprised me, so thanks for coming out. And I was recently at an induction ceremony for a good friend of mine who was more or less escorted off the stage for the length of his talk. So I'm going to do my best here to be brief. I do want to first say thank you to Krista and the Hall of Fame committee. It's an honor to be inducted, and I greatly appreciate it. I'm feeling emotional here because I got a lot going on, and I want to start by sort of just saying, Joseph Campbell said of heroes, a hero is someone who has given his or her life to something bigger than oneself. With that in mind, Bruce Springsteen wrote on The Rising. He was working to make sense of the bravery of the first responders and everyday heroes who selflessly charged into the fire on September 11th. Those who ran into the buildings and went headlong into the debris and smoke. In describing these incomprehensible acts of heroism, he said, "May your strength give us strength. May your faith give us faith. May your hope give us hope. May your love bring us love." And reflecting on this framing and just being inspired by this ceremony, I started to think about how fortunate I have been to be surrounded by so many heroes throughout my life. And I just want to quickly say thank you to a few who are here and to those who are not, who have impacted me. May your strength give us strength. My parents are strong. They're the first people in their families to go to college. My father was born to immigrant parents, and my mother lost both of her parents before she was 25. That didn't stop them from building a business, raising 5 children, and supporting me as the oldest and the only athlete to play in college at the time. My mother, I remember her giving me a book about self-confidence, Louis Pasteur, and working to kind of keep me motivated and believing in myself. My father, in my time here, was at nearly every game, and I remember vividly times when the games didn't go our way, and sometimes my emotions would get the most of me and my frustrations, and he would often be standing with me alone in the forest somewhere while the rest of the team was exiting the field, just standing, talking to me, keeping his arm on my shoulder, and talking me through any of my frustrations. In terms of faith, may your faith give us faith. To be a coach is to have faith. Faith in the vision, the plan, the players, just the job. There are times where there's almost a crisis of conflict in questioning what are we doing if things aren't going the way you want. My coaches, even before I got to Drew, nearly all of them are in the Hall of Fame in the state, some of them in the Hall of Fame nationally. Coach King and Strecko, Pooley, Kyle Kirst, when I was in high school, prepared me for my time here. Here, I was fortunate. Coach Peluso, who's now the head coach at Stevens, was an assistant coach who I remember him taking countless hours to just sit, talk with me, be there for me, support me, be a mentor, and be someone who cared about me beyond just being a player. DeSico, who was already mentioned, he was an All-American at Rutgers. He came here and he told me, you can play professionally, which at the time seemed preposterous. And he believed in me, and he worked with me, and he challenged me, and he made me better. And obviously, Coach Lianos, I can't say enough. I get choked up just thinking about the fact he's here. I called him about 2 weeks ago, and it was like something out of a sitcom. He's like berating himself about how he's not going to make it. He screwed up. He can't believe it. I'm not going to get there. There's no way I can be there. And here he is today. So he had me on my toes. I remember meeting with Coach Lianos when I was a sophomore and being in one of the conference rooms and him sitting down with me and looking at me and saying, Dan, the guys on the team like you, and you're a leader for us. And I can honestly say that's the first, I've said this publicly several times, that's the first time in my life someone looked at me and said that people like me. And it made an enormous impact on me, and it inspired me. And he, in many ways, that conversation changed the trajectory of my life, because it made me realize that even though I was quiet and didn't always feel like I was fitting in, I was. Just to move on, may your hope give us hope. To be a player at Drew in the era I was here you had to have hope. You had to have hope you'd get a date on Friday night. You had to have hope you'd win the game on Saturday. There was a lot of hope. But, you know, I was fortunate to be around guys who were filled with it, and Billy being among them. He wasn't a coach. He didn't have any reason to sit and talk with us, but he did, endlessly. He would talk and listen and support and give us all of his hope and heart that we would excel and do well. And to the players that I played with, hope abounded. Even before I got here, my teammate from West Morris Central in high school, one of them is here in the audience today, and helped to kind of galvanize the perspective that if you believe and you work, anything can happen. And to all the guys who never quit, had each other's back, were supportive and positive, the guys like the Colonnas, the Julins, the Clintons, the Curtises, the Grillos, Zankerts, Previty, Fernie, Tucker, Lose, Corcoran, Blewett, and many more, their hope lives on. And it helped to establish and advance a culture that was already here before we got here, that I can honestly say is still very much alive today, by virtue of the fact that all these guys just showed up and I didn't even know they were going to be here. And it's Friday night, and I'm sure they have hopes of their own. But they're fitting it in. And then finally, may your love bring us love. I met my wife Erin here at Drew, and have learned most of what I know about love from my relationship with her. Not everything's been easy. We've endured any number of challenges together, but we just keep fighting, and we keep working, and we keep moving forward. She's the best teammate I've ever had. When I first graduated, I went to play, quite literally, I went to play with the best players in the world. I don't know exactly how I got on the team, but they took me, and Erin came to watch a game. We came back. I said, what do you think? She said, you didn't play so well. She's like, what are you doing? Like, you owe it to yourself to maintain your stand. This is true. I remember sitting in my apartment I was at Tufts at the time, and sitting on my bed, and she's standing over me, say, you owe it to yourself to be the best you can be and play your standard, whether you're up or you're down. You have to be you. And from that moment on, I moved forward, and I took those words to heart, and I've reflected on them often. So thank you. And finally, as I conclude, and you guys should hear this too, but I'm going to direct it to my sons. I love you and wish you nothing but happiness. Look out for the heroes in your world and follow them. Listen to the people who believe in you, give all of yourself, and aspire to do your best. You never know where you may wind up, and I'm thankful to be here. So thank you.
Thank you, Dan, and congratulations again. So our next inductee is Robin Savar from the class of 1983. Unfortunately, Robin could not join us for tonight's ceremony, but we'd like to take a moment to share some of Robin's highlights from her outstanding career in the Forest. Robin was a two-sport athlete at Drew, competing in both basketball and tennis. On the hardwood, she made her mark as a playmaker and a defender, setting school records for both assists and steals that still stand nearly 40 years later. She also still owns the Drew standard for assists in a single season when she reset her own record as a senior. Robin helped a pair of her teammates reach the 1,000-point plateau for their careers, including the program's all-time leading scorer, Leslie Rushton, and 7th all-time leading scorer, Denise Brown Driscoll. In tennis, Robin was a key member of a squad that enjoyed great success during her time here. She competed at number 1 singles as a senior and helped the team set a school record for victories with 8. She also teamed up with 2-time singles national champion, Kim Schmidt-Sellert in doubles, with whom she posted an undefeated doubles record. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, Drew Director of Athletics, Krista Racine, will share a message from Robin as she accepts her place in the Athletics Hall of Fame. Krista.
Okay. Those of you that are a little bit aware of my athletic accomplishments know that basketball is the furthest from from anything that I can do well. So I'm going to really take advantage of fantasizing about this moment of basketball success and tennis. So I'm honored to read these words on behalf of Robin. It is truly an honor to be inducted into the Drew University Athletic Hall of Fame. I would like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for acknowledging my contributions to women's tennis and basketball and extend my sincere congratulations to all the other inductees this evening. When I reflect on my years as a student athlete at Drew, my mind is flooded with positive experiences both on and off the court. I was fortunate to have had the freedom, support, and inspiration to seek out my best in both the athletic and academic arenas. Any success I had as an athlete was largely due to the talented women that shared the courts with me so many years ago. On the basketball court, I only had to get the ball into the capable hands of the likes of Leslie Rushton, Denise Brown, and Suzanne Spangler. On the tennis court, the indomitable Kim Schmidt and I were undefeated in doubles. Sharing a court with Kim meant you simply couldn't lose. These team experiences decades ago have continued to inform my approach to life. Show up, work hard, do your best, and be a team player. To quote Mia Hamm, there are always new and grander challenges to confront, and a true winner will embrace each one. It is with deep gratitude that I accept this award, and I'm sorry that I could not attend this ceremony. Thank you, Robin Savar.
Thank you, Krista. Congratulations again to Robin. Our final inductee to recognize this year is Dave Yorke from the class of 1996. Dave made his mark as a record-setting baseball player for the Rangers, breaking numerous offensive marks during a stellar career as a 4-year starter as a corner infielder. He made his final year at the Forest his best, hitting a career-high .372 to go with a school record 12 doubles on his way to becoming the first player in team history to earn first-team All-State recognition. He also earned his second consecutive first-team All-MAC honor and was selected to the All-ECAC first team as well during that senior year. During his junior campaign, Dave helped the Rangers to an outstanding season that included 20 victories and the program's first ever berth in the MAC playoffs. Additionally, Dave helped the Rangers advance to the ECAC championship twice during his career. Dave continues to hold a prominent place in the Drew record books, ranking among the top 10 in a number of categories. He's 7th in batting average at .338, 3rd in RBIs with 109, 3rd in doubles with 37, 5th in hits with 161, and 8th in total bases with 215. He also pitched in 8 games. So you pitched in 8 games. I was here with Dave for 2 years, and I made a mention before that he was a pitcher, and he told me that he only pitched in 1 game. So I think, give yourself some credit. So in the 8 games, tied the school record with 15 strikeouts versus Marywood. Additionally, he hit the only inside-the-park home run at Doc Young Field during Coach Masco's 28-year tenure as head coach. Coach Masco coached Dave during all four of his years at Drew and recently spoke of what Dave meant to the team. Coach Masco said, "Dave was a very special player and a great teammate. He was one of the best hitters our program had and supplied a lot of power. He deserved all the recognition he received from the MAC as well as the New Jersey State Baseball Coaches Association." Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I am pleased to honor and introduce Dave Yorke.
Hi, everybody. I'm not so good with reading off stuff, so I'll just talk. I want to say thank you to the Hall of Fame committee, Krista, Kevin. Congratulations to everybody up here on their induction. Drew is a special place for me. Coming here wasn't exactly the path that I expected. As a matter of fact, the day I visited Drew, the first time I walked on this campus was the day after they graduated, my senior year. Coach Masco's back there. I don't know if you remember, but my dad brought me up here after a whole lot of things changed. So we're walking through campus, and Coach is showing us like the commons, and we couldn't get into the dorms because they were all locked because it was the day after graduation, nobody was here. So we're walking, and my dad says to me, "Do you want to go here? Do you like it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I really do like it." And Coach is going through all the how good it is academically here. And I was like, "Dad, there's no shot. Like, I'm not getting in here." And he's like, "Well, let's try." And I was like, "Dad, listen, this is a waste of time. There's no chance I'm getting in here." And Coach Masco keeps going. He's like, 12:30, and all these people go on to graduate school, and they become doctors, and I'm walking through, and I'm like, this is just a tease. Like, we gotta go. And he's like, "Let's go over to the admissions department, and we'll put the application in and see what happens." Well, my dad was friends with Tom Kane, who was the president at the time. So we go over to the admissions department, and we're sitting with the admissions director, and we write the application out. And at the time, you just wrote it out. You didn't put it online or anything. And she looks at the thing, looks at me, and I'm like, "How are you?" And she looks at Coach Masco, and she basically was like, "There's no way." And she walks out, the phone rings, she comes back, and she's like, "Congratulations." And I was like, "I get in?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, you got in." And my dad was like, "See, I told you to get in." And the phone rang at the perfect minute because there was no shot. So that was, like I said, May of my senior year in high school. So show up in September, and all the baseball players get together, and everybody's going out to take batting practice, and it was, just a bunch of guys throwing at each other, flipping balls, and I'm taking batting practice. I'm hitting ground balls to the right side, popping up into the screen. I'm swinging and missing balls. So I go out after I hit, I go out to first base, and Pete Arthur, who I wish I could be here, who could be here today, walk out, and he's standing there, and he goes, "Dave, listen, we got this kid coming in. He's an all-state player from New Jersey, set records all over New Jersey, hit like 500 in high school." I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, you got to see him play." He's like, "Yeah, he was first team all county, first team all state, hit like 490 in high school." I was like, "That was me." He's like, "You just hit, right?" I said, "Yep, that was me." And he's like, "Oh, Kind of thought you'd be better. It's like, yeah, so did I. So it was kind of a rocky start here. I think I met Kevin and Prev and a couple guys that are here today. The first day I came here, Dave Shaw, a bunch of them, and I realized very quickly that this is a place for me. These guys were great right away. Some of them probably didn't know my first name until I was a junior, because I didn't know theirs. I didn't know Kevin's name until he graduated. So there's a bunch more stories. Rob Dankin, who hopefully is watching this on some kind of video thing if he can figure it out, he's a psychiatrist. Wow. They always say the craziest ones become psychiatrists. He must be a good one. So we're walking out, practicing in the spring, my first year here, and we used to practice in Jadwin Gym before the Forum, before any of this stuff. And it was a basketball gym, that's about it. And we're walking out, and Jason Kroll was catching, and there was all this, I couldn't catch anymore. There's all this stuff going on. So Coach Masco's walking out, and he goes, we gotta find a third baseman. We don't have a third baseman. And Rob goes, Dave plays third. I said, no, I don't. He goes, yeah, Dave plays third. I said, I don't play third. What are you talking about? He's like, yeah, you do. He plays third. And Coach Masco was like, all right, good. We got a third baseman. I was like, I got to borrow somebody's glove. I don't know what you're talking about. So 4 years later, I played third base for 90% of my career. Poorly, like really poorly. I didn't know that I had the only inside the park home run. Yeah, that was kind of impressive because I ran backwards. I do remember a home run. There's very few hits I remember. I remember a home run at Albright, and coming around third base, they didn't have a fence in right field, and coming around third base, Coach Masco was going, keep running, and I was like, whoa, kind of tired here. And he's like, no, they don't have the ball yet. And he's waving me, and I'm like, oh man. And the ball's out in deep right field. So I forgot there was no fence. So I realized I have to leg it out, and now I'm hitting the wall between third and home. So the ball goes 400 and some feet. I am almost out at the plate, like really close. There's a play at the plate, and there shouldn't have been. A normal person could have rounded twice. Yeah, so that was that. There's a lot of good Coach Masco stories. I don't know if you remember, but my sophomore year, came back from Florida, and I was hot. Like I was something like 16 for 19 in Florida. Came back and I went 0 for 28. Do you remember this? So I popped out with the bases loaded again, and he goes, "Is that 26 or 27 without a hit?" So I think it's 26, Coach, but thanks, appreciate it. At least there's no pressure now. Some things about Drew baseball that are important to me. Those 5 kids are the most important things in my life, and they're all here because of baseball and Drew, and some of them are here because of Drew and baseball. I met their mom here at Drew, and Michael, Davey, and Brady. Their mom passed away 8 years ago, but I met her here on a baseball trip because she was a trainer, which is odd. So then a while ago I started a baseball company, and I met Grace and Hunter's mom because Hunter played for us, and their mom Melissa and I got married 2 years ago, and I'm blessed to have her and them as my children. So baseball's played a big part in my life, and Drew has played a big part in my life. So I've worked in baseball. I've never actually had to wear anything but sweatpants to work. So I have out sweatpants and home sweatpants, which is great. And again, I want to thank everybody for letting me talk to you and listening to me. The last thing I want to do is I want to thank Billy. My time at Drew wouldn't have been the same without you. From what we did my freshman year to my senior year, you and I became friends, and I still talk to you more than most people. You were somebody that I can count on. Freshman year, when I walked in, you were like, oh, who's this guy? To sophomore year, when it got a little better, you knew me a little better. Junior year, it was okay. Senior year, I basically spent the whole time in your office when I probably should have been in class. So I want to thank you for making my college years better and bearable. Like I said, I probably should have been in class more. And my kids should definitely go to class. Thank you again. Thank you to the Hall of Fame committee. Thanks to Kevin. Krista, I appreciate it. And have a nice night. Thanks.
All right, so how about you join me in one final round of applause for everyone who was honored here tonight. So this formally concludes our ceremony, the ceremony portion of our event tonight. I'd like to invite everyone to now join us over at Mead Hall for a reception, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of stories being told and shared there, so please come over and join us there. And I think we're going to ask the inductees to stay up here for some pictures. I can't thank you all enough for coming out tonight. Again, every year we have the chance to honor really, really special people, and it's always great to be here on campus and to be here after a few years of not being able to, 2 years of not being able to. It's great to be back now for the second year in a row. So thank you once again. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your support of Drew, and please always keep Drew in your hearts. Thank you.